Before 1914, Europe seemed peaceful on the surface, but underneath tensions were simmering. This was a time of great empires and intense national pride. Britain, France, Germany were competing for power, colonies, and economic dominance across the globe, and their empires stretched far beyond Europe. A powerful feeling called nationalism swept the continent. People felt immense loyalty to their country and suspicion of their neighbors. At the same time, a frantic arms race was underway. Britain responded with powerful warships such as HMS Dreadnought. Generals drew up complex war plans and nations mobilized millions. It was a delicate balance, easily shattered by a single spark. The world waited. That spark came in Sarajevo in the summer of 1914. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian nationalist lit the fuse. It lit the powder keg, and the alliance system dragged the continent into war. A local crisis became a global catastrophe. The Great War had begun. Two great coalitions would face each other across Europe and the world. The Great War was fought not by lone nations, but by two massive coalitions. These alliances bound countries to defend each other, often formal, sometimes secret. These agreements ensured rapid escalation. On one side, the Central Powers. At its heart, Germany, a powerful modern military state, joined by the multi-ethnic Austro-Hungarian Empire. Later, the Ottoman Empire joined, controlling key routes like the Dardanelles. Bulgaria added regional strength in the Balkans. Together they formed a connected, dangerous bloc across Eurasia. Opposing them were the Allied powers, or Entente. France, still bitter after 1870, sought to limit Germany. Russia, vast and with huge manpower reserves, and Britain, with the world's dominant navy and global colonies. Its dominions and colonies contributed millions of soldiers and resources. As war progressed, the Allies grew. Italy switched sides in 1915, seeking territory from Austria-Hungary. Japan joined to seize German possessions in Asia. In April 1917, the United States entered the war, a pivotal addition. American industry and fresh troops would help tip the balance. Over time, the global balance shifted toward the Allies. What began in Europe had become a true world war. The struggle would endure, with heavy cost on every side. The war began in August 1914 with rapid movement and shock. Germany enacted the Schlieffen Plan, strike west through neutral Belgium to knock out France quickly. Then turn east to face Russia. German armies swept through Belgium toward Paris, but the advance was halted at the First Battle of the Marne. French and British troops mounted a desperate defense. After the halt, both sides dug in, creating vast trench networks. Lines stretched nearly 500 miles from the Swiss border to the North Sea. Stalemate and attrition defined the Western Front. In 1916, the war reached a new level of slaughter. Verdun, an attritional German offensive. The Somme, British and French assaults that cost over 1 million casualties each. While the Western Front ground on, the war raged elsewhere. On the Eastern Front, fighting was more mobile with vast armies clashing. In the Middle East, colonial forces and figures like Lawrence of Arabia fought the Ottomans. 1917 proved decisive. Russian shortages and unrest led to revolution and the Tsar's abdication. The Bolsheviks seized power and Russia soon exited the war. Meanwhile, the United States mobilized and sent fresh troops to Europe. Unrestricted submarine warfare helped draw America in. Freed from the east, Germany launched a final spring offensive in 1918. The offensive ultimately failed as Allied and American forces countered. The 100 Days Offensive pushed back the Central Powers. World War I introduced a terrifying new reality: trench warfare. Soldiers lived for weeks in muddy, rat-infested channels. These were complex systems: frontline, support, and communication trenches. Life in the trenches was miserable and terrifying. Rats, lice, and disease were constant. Trench foot could lead to gangrene and amputation. The psychological toll was immense. Shell shock, what we now call PTSD. Mass graves and cemeteries are grim reminders of the cost. New technologies made the war uniquely destructive. Machine guns could fire hundreds of rounds per minute, devastating infantry assaults. Artillery turned landscapes into moonscapes and could bury men alive. Poison gas, chlorine and mustard, caused choking, burns, and terror. The British introduced the tank in 1916, slow and unreliable but revolutionary. Tanks offered mobile protection for advancing infantry. The skies became a new battlefield. Reconnaissance, then armed dogfights. Combined, these technologies produced unprecedented destruction. Entire regions were left destroyed. Mechanical power and fresh troops would eventually break the stalemate. Hundreds of thousands of American troops changed the strategic picture. By autumn 1918, the Central Powers were collapsing. Germany's spring offensive had failed. Its army was exhausted. Allied forces, reinforced by American troops and new tanks, broke the lines. Bulgaria, the Ottomans, and Austria-Hungary surrendered in quick succession. At home, Germans faced hunger, mutiny, and revolution. Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated on November 9, 1918. A new government sought an end to the fighting. At 5 a.m. on November 11th, Germany signed an armistice in Compiègne. 6 hours later, the guns fell silent. An estimated 10 million soldiers were killed. Another 20 million were wounded. Many were maimed for life. Millions of civilians died from disease and starvation. Entire regions of France and Belgium were utterly destroyed. European economies were deeply in debt from reconstruction costs. The war swept away 4 great empires. New countries were born: Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. In Paris in 1919, the Allies argued over how to build the peace. The Treaty of Versailles placed blame on Germany and imposed heavy reparations. Many Germans felt humiliated by the treaty. Economic turmoil and resentment festered through the 20s. These conditions helped create the environment in which extremist movements could rise. World War I reshaped the world, politically, socially, and morally.